This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Prime Video. In the small town of Holland, Michigan, nothing is ever what it seems. Behind the tulip festivals and pretty houses lay dark secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Nicole Kidman stars in this darkly twisted thriller about a wife and mother whose quest to uncover her husband's secrets may get her more than she bargained for. Holland, streaming on Prime Video March 27th.
In 2005, two brothers hit the road to fight monsters. That road has led them to fighting demons, angels, and saving the world.
It's a journey that is taking them to heaven, hell, and back. But they aren't done.
Join our journey as we go episode by episode, following the adventures of Sam and Dean Winchester. We break each episode down with the writers, producers, directors, crew, and actors to bring you the behind-the-scenes stories of how this legendary TV series was made. That guy right there, that's Rob Benedict. He played God and Chuck Shirley.
Hey, and that guy there, that's Richard Spade Jr. He played Gabriel, Loki, and the Trickster. And P.S., he directed a bunch of episodes too.
Now, while we are insiders, we're also outsiders because we're not experts. This is our first time watching the entire series, all 327 episodes.
Rich and I have met many of the fans at conventions around the world, and we are deepening our understanding of why you all love this series so much. Because it's really good.
Yeah, it is. Now listen, there will be spoilers, so consider yourself warned.
And thank you for joining us on this trip we call Supernatural Then and Now. Hey everybody, it's Rob Benedict.
It's also Richard Spade Jr.
And we are coming at you today with a very special episode.
Yeah, not one of our usual crap shacks that we staple together. This is a really special.
It's a special, on a very special Supernatural Then and Now. It's what we call our Spotlight episode. Every so often we break from format by not covering a specific episode, but we shine a spotlight on a specific topic or person.
And this, I tell you what we're doing today, well-deserved.
Well-deserved.
We've picked the right target for our spotlight.
Yep. Today we're shining a spotlight on Julian Richings, Death himself.
Death.
And you're going to hear lots of that. You're going to hear lots of Rich singing that song.
Death.
And I have to say, every episode we watch with him in it, we stop and give a shout out. We're like, this guy's amazing.
Yeah, we do. But he's great in everything he does.
Yeah.
I also want to say that song and intro, the best intro Supernatural did. And I know there's a lot of argument that Misha's intro in season 4 is also great. So I guess
that's top 5, but this is number 1 for sure.
I mean,
yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
But hey, before we go down that road,
yeah.
Guess what?
What?
Mr. You tried Magic Mind last week. Well, I finally tried Magic Mind this week.
No way.
Yeah.
You of all people.
I know. I broke with tradition. I'm a man of ritual, but I decided to mix it up and try Magic Mind.
Well, what'd you think?
Like a good magician, I made it disappear. Get it? I drank it.
I don't know why that's kind of gross. Into my belly.
You're picturing me consuming the bottle, but I just consumed the contents.
Exactly.
It was great, man. It was great.
Wow.
You look, I'm a coffee guy. I got 3 kids. It's always chaos at the Spade House. You know that. You come over here. You come over to the Spade House and then backed away slowly because it's just too much chaos. Well,
it's a lot of chaos.
Yeah, I kind of rely on my on my caffeine. So this is a bit of a switcheroo.
Yeah, you're a caffeine guy.
I'm a caffeine guy, and this didn't mean I had to get rid of my caffeine, by the way.
Oh.
So like I did a little digging, and I still had my coffee.
Oh,
but this is like a little added boost to the mental performance to the routine. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh, totally.
You know me, I'm a nerd. I make my little espressos, and that's my ritual in the morning. While I'm doing that and pressing it down, I knock back a shot of the Magic Mind.
That's amazing.
Yeah, while prepping the coffee. It's awesome. And dude, I'll tell you something. The reason why I like coffee in the morning is I'm a fog machine, dude. I live in a haze.
Fog machine.
I live with a woman named JC Hayes. Like, I'm literally in a haze. And then
They call you a fog machine on the streets.
Exactly. And so the kids come down and it's mayhem, and I usually have to drive them to school and crack the whip to get those boys in line and get out the door. It was really nice to have a little bit of that cloud lifted and the fog part by taking Magic Mind. It was awesome.
Wow, good for you, man. I'm so happy to hear it. Yeah, I'm digging this stuff.
Are you a daily? Are you going with once a day thing?
No, it depends on the day. It's if I have I need extra brain power to get me through, Like the other day when we were doing the reading.
Yeah, the Jim Beaver play reading. Did you take one before the reading?
A few hours before, yeah.
Genius.
Yeah.
See, that's what I should have done.
Yeah, keeps you locked in.
And I believe my performance suffered.
No, you were great. But hey, listen, I was out the other day at Sprouts, the store Sprouts, doing some grocery shopping, and they have it here in Southern California, and it was there. It was there on the shelf.
That's good to know.
They ship to 65 countries. And so what we're going to do is at the end of this episode, we're going to have a code for our listeners where you can use this code to get 48% off your first subscription to Magic Mind, which is changing our lives.
Yeah, go give it a try, guys. You're gonna dig it, man. It really is a nice little way to zone in and focus and get a little mental clarity. So give it a try and let us know what you think.
And now, without further ado, we'd like to introduce Julian Richings, a man that we've known for a while because of the conventions, and we're
long time. We've known it for a long time.
All episode, everybody. All episode, you're going to be getting that kind of performance. But he played the Horseman Death for 5 impactful episodes of Supernatural.
That's all he was in?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Dude, that's insane.
Yeah.
What a blast radius that character had.
Are we done with him now? Did we not see him again?
I quit the show.
2 more. He's got 2 more. He's done so much cool stuff, this guy. He's La Femme Nikita, Cube, Wrong Turn, X-Men Last Stand, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Man of Steel, Orphan Black. He was great in that. 12 Monkeys, Doom Patrol.
No, it's not even naming the 2 that I think should be on there. The Witch, which is an unbelievable movie that he's so good in.
The Witch.
And Beau is Afraid.
Beau's Afraid, yes. Great in Beau's Afraid.
Yeah.
Wait, which one's The Witch?
Witch. It's the guy's first movie.
Yeah,
he did Lighthouse, and then he did
with Anna Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, and then he did Lighthouse, and then he just did Nosferatu. Yeah,
and he also did the Northman.
The Northman. Yeah. But I mean, The Witch is. I mean, that for a debut movie is just unbelievable.
Yeah, fantastic, and he's in that. So there you go.
Unfortunately, after that intro, we have no time to interview.
Exactly.
Thank you, everybody. See you next week.
So we're gonna escort you right over into our conversation with Julian Richings.
Here we go.
Hi, buddy.
Hello. Good to see you.
See you.
Julian, dude, for starters, just on a personal note, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Are you up there broadcasting from Toronto? Is that where you are right now?
Yeah, actually, I'm a little bit out of the city. I came up my son has a place north of the city, and I'm staying here for a few days. And it's nice to be out of the city. I'm sure you guys know, like in places like Chicago and New York, it's good to get away, especially with the weather being what it's been, and sunshine, and the snow is melting, but it's still cold.
Always a little cold, huh?
Oh, yeah.
We've known Julian for maybe 10, 12 years. We've been doing these conventions together. But this podcast is about Rich and I sitting down and watching the show for the first time. And so I've seen your intro before, but I've never watched you on the show. I don't know what happens with you or anything. I know you play Death. Every episode you're in, we stop and we sing your praises because you're so good. You're so good. There's so much that you bring to this character that's so great, and you're a cinematic actor, and so you just really bring this show up.
Well, thank you. It's a gift. Actually, the part of Death really is one of those that touches so many things that feel innate to me. I've just gone with it and enjoyed it immensely.
But dude, it's everything. It's how you brush your shoulder in the intro. It's how you use the cane as part of an extension of your body. You just are that dude. And for anybody who has met Julian Richings at a convention or in real life, because he's nothing like that guy. So it's a complete character. Like nothing about you is that guy. Not the way you move, not the way you comport yourself, not your pattern of speech.
The way you eat, that's the Julian part, the eating all the food.
Yeah.
It's one of the best pure. And also, it's an interesting role because it's called Death. You think scary, you think bad guy. He's not.
No. No, and in fact, that's one of the keys for me, is that I've always seen him as part of life cycle. And the very fact that he's so into food and he's so into junk food that specifically Dean enjoys, it makes him very human and fallible and curious. And those are all really critical qualities, I think. And they work against the whole idea of being the most powerful being in the universe. I love that juxtaposition. And I always like to play counterpoint rather than go in and hit something on the head with a mallet and go, I'm tough. You better look out, buddy. I like to go the opposite way. And the script, the whole directions of having food gave me that gift of being able to just play the counterpoint all the time.
Yeah.
And I have to say, the other actors, I know we're going to get onto a specific episode. Right from the get-go, with Jensen responding to me in that pizza parlor, he responded to me and gave me status. He didn't play his own status as the lead of a TV show.
That's a really valid point too, man. That's really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we've all done many gigs in the industry, and I'm sure you, like me, have been on sets where you go, oops, this is the lead. The lead has their character set, and you don't disrupt it. You just go along with it.
Yeah.
And they also don't want to give, right?
And they have a sense of where each scene should go rather than playing. And I have to say, with the entire cast of Supernatural, everybody understands that it's about the narrative of that particular episode, and they invest in it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it go teeter-totter and surprise, and the back and forth between the two brothers specifically.
Yeah.
It keeps it alive.
You just expressed so beautifully what I tried to say about the show, and I never can think of the right words, but that's a great way to say all of that. And that is exactly the generosity of those guys, and the talent of those guys are like placing power, being afraid of someone half their size. Like I think all three of us have embodied that on the show. And
I do think that as somebody, Rob and I watching the show for the first time going through here, I could be wrong here, but I feel like it was the first time I saw Dean scared for an entire scene.
Yeah, with Death. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he knew he was out over his skis from the beginning of it.
Totally.
He was probably scared I was going to choke on my pizza in real life.
Really?
Everybody says, hey, did the boys prank you and stuff? The reality is that we did so many food scenes together that you don't really have the opportunity to goof around because it's pretty focused, right? It's like a stunt in many ways when you're dealing with food and you're dealing with the precision of ingesting stuff with a particular mouthful and a particular line and all that. And I know that on the day I arrived having shot the intro, then we went inside into the pizza parlor and I was starving. Suddenly these pizzas arrived on set and we rehearsed, and I just grabbed the nearest slice of pizza in the rehearsal and I started to eat it in the rehearsal because I was just so hungry. And
to people at home who don't know that, typically you don't do that. Typically you wait till they're shooting.
Especially with eating. Especially with eating.
And it was Jensen that actually, the first thing he said to me basically was, you're eating a lot of pizza, man. I'd go easy. And you notice that from that point on, I took it from the master who had obviously been in many scenes
where he's
before
eating.
Where he was having stuff.
Dean's always eating or drinking.
So it was funny. By the time we got to take 13, when it turned around on him, I was going, oh my God, can't touch pizza again for another month or two.
Right. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Every time you eat, it does look very real.
I am. I'm chomping away at first anyway.
We might need to have an intervention with your wife to tell you, feed this man. You shouldn't have to work to eat.
Let's take a step back. How did you get your first episode with Supernatural? Was that an audition or an offer?
No, it was an audition, and I didn't know the show. The show was like 4 seasons in, I think, and I'd heard of it. I'd heard of Vancouver, and I knew that there was a particular kind of niche that shows in Vancouver had captured. I was aware that Supernatural was part of a group of sci-fi shows. So my agent said, oh, you got an audition for this show called Supernatural. And I went, okay, great. And I put myself on tape because I was in Toronto and obviously the show's in Vancouver. And then I got a really good gig. I shot an indie film in the prairies, and I went to the prairies and I was really focused on that. And it was quite some time later, 2 months, maybe even 3 months later, I got a call from my agent saying, oh, that show Supernatural, you got a role. And oh, yeah, okay. Pestilence, right? And she went, no, you're playing death. And the sides that I'd read for was
pestilence.
So I think what the writers were doing was that they were figuring out the four horsemen, and they'd probably got like a satisfactory scene that involved pestilence, put it out there and saw what they got back, and then decided to mix and match their four horsemen. So it was a complete surprise to me when I was even deaf. And then I was going, so I was learning on my feet going, there's four horsemen. Okay.
Right.
And we're all going to be involved in the show right now. But you pick it up quick. And as I was saying with Jensen, he's very generous and he's very open. And suddenly you feel planted in the universe, so you're okay, and you just go with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a convention question.
Yeah.
Robert, have the Four Horsemen ever been at one convention?
I've never seen that. Julian, has that happened?
No.
Julian and Titus Welliver and...
I've never actually appeared with one other, let alone the bunch of us.
That'd be a trip.
That's a genius idea.
It took a while for the two Deaths to get together, Billy and Death.
Oh, yeah.
And that's only happened in the last year or so, which was great. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, she's great.
Ahoy, Rich Spade here. Hope you're enjoying the episode, but we got to pull over for a second for some messages.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can be a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help you find options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Hey everybody, it's Rob. I'd like to introduce you to something I just heard about through the podcast. It's called Factor, Factor, and Factor is a way that you can optimize your nutrition this year because they have chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes, so you can fuel up right now and feel great no matter what life throws at you. It's quick and easy, good food. What could possibly be better? So here's the deal. Factor arrives fresh to your door and fully prepared. So all you need to do is pop them in the microwave, and then 2 minutes later, boom, you got a fresh chef-made meal. You have 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on a menu each week, and it's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. You can choose from preferences like Calorie Smart or Protein Plus or Keto. And with the Keto meal, you can lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks. So that's cool, and it's all done for you. You don't have to do anything. You reach your goals this year with ingredients you can trust and convenience that can't be beat. And you say to yourself, how would you know, Rob? Well, I'll tell you what. I just got Factor myself. That's me taking the last sip of my pineapple, turmeric, and basil cold-pressed juice. Last night, Ruth and I had a couple of meals. We had the basil garlic barramundi and tomato cream, which was delish. They've even got breakfast add-on meals, and we had the bacon and smoked cheddar egg scramble, which was amazing. It's so good, so great, lots of options. What are you waiting for? Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code factorpodcast to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code factorpodcast at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box.
Thanks for supporting Supernatural then and now. And speaking of now, let's go back to the show.
What was the beginning of your career? You started in England?
Yeah, I always attribute my being an actor to, I'm the middle child of 3 boys. I always have this pop psychology thing where I've met a lot of actors and they are middle children. And I always feel that the middle child has a root to both siblings. is slightly different with each one, has a different sort of status with your older sibling and your younger sibling, and you're able to shift and adapt. But at the same time, you have an identity crisis.
Yes.
And you don't quite know who you are.
Yeah.
And I think it allows you to have the substance of an actor.
That's really interesting. I'd never thought about. In my mind, I always had it, probably because I'm the youngest, that youngest were often the artsy ones of the family. But your description of a middle is so true. Like you really are. You are. I'm not going to say Switzerland because that's definitely not what my middle son is. But he is different with.
Yeah.
He's the only one in my family, and in your family, you were the only one for you, who gets to be an older brother and a younger brother.
And genuine in both. And certain situations call you to have authority and to be comedic or whatever. And another one to be quite subservient and reverential to.
Right.
But genuinely, you're not being a hypocrite by being one to one sibling and another thing to another. It's just what it brings, what in you the other sibling brings out. So I've always shifted a bit, and I've compensated for my older brother, who is very creative, very artistic, but not great with people, didn't like dealing one-on-one with people. So I compensated. He became a set designer because he used to build stuff around our house, and I used to populate his creations, like being the ringmaster in a spook house and being the guy that would act them out and get the neighborhood kids in our backyard. So he was the creator and I was like the public face.
Yeah.
And then he carried on with his career and became a set designer. And I became an actor. And my younger brother, oddly enough, became a lighting designer. He's quite a well-known lighting designer.
Wow.
Dude, you guys are all in the business. That's insane.
It's a little humbling because I realized that had my parents not had the realization that my older brother had a peculiar talent, he wasn't really doing well at school, but he really had a gift and a passion, and they channeled it and said, you should go to the youth club where they put on plays, and you should try and put on plays at this youth club and do your specialty. And he was allowed to because every other kid wanted to act, but he was just there building scenery and stuff. Then I went along and helped him, and then I went along and wanted to be an actor like everybody else. So it's a bit humbling to know that at that age, we're also creative. It's just whether you get it channeled properly or not.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah.
So I don't know that we're especially gifted or anything, but we're fortunate enough that we were able to tap into our strengths.
Yeah.
And it became a lifelong passion for all of us.
Did you ever work on anything together, like theater or movie?
A discotheque. Because we all came of age in 77 at the advent of punk.
Yeah.
My brother built environments, like we built this mobile disco that went around all the clubs that banned live music because they were afraid of riots. So we would do punk discos, thematic ones, with my brother building an environment, me being the host, and my younger brother doing all these crazy lights and stuff. So we worked together on that for about a year, but never actually in the professional theater or.
When you're doing that, though, the disco, was that for people? Like, did you guys make money on that endeavor?
It started off as a youth club thing. It grew and we had a massive audience. And then we started to make enough money to cover our costs. But the thing that let us down always is that we never had the infrastructure to organize security. There was always trouble because it was like in that era when there was a lot of aggressive music.
Yeah.
And it was an outlet for it was a really cool thing, but we could never handle complicated security issues. So we went, oh, we're creative.
Yeah,
we can't
totally.
deal with the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's really trippy. Are they still in the UK?
My younger brother is London-based, and my older brother is in Birmingham.
Oh, cool.
Now, how did you migrate to Canada?
I came on tour with the theatre company in 1980. This goes back to what you were saying about my portrayal of death. It was such a gift for me because I'm trained a bit differently. I'm trained as a physical actor. I don't represent the traditional British training of drama schools. In the 70s in England, there was kind of a backlash against the old school British thing of, I'm an English actor and I smoke cigarettes, I speak very well, and I act with this top half of my body, and I enunciate very well. There was a kind of a reaction to that, and people were starting to look at different influences. Grotowski in Poland, Jerzy Grotowski, who ran the Teatro Laboratorium, was one of the seminal guys that was introducing the notion of physical theater, where you embodied ritual and physicality into performance. So he trained all his actors as if they were athletes. And what you did is you embodied a character from head to toe.
Right.
And dialogue was not secondary exactly, but it was part of the overall. It wasn't about the presentation, which is again why death is such a gift for me, because there is a physicality to death that it allows me.
He's both.
Yeah.
Old school with new school in there too, right?
And a bit of attitude as well.
Yeah.
Something about your, like, Rob and I always, your ears should be burning because whenever we're like at a convention and we'll go by the photo ops, we're like, God, the camera loves Julian. You look like you were a founding member of the coolest band in the UK.
Right.
I put you and Willem Dafoe in the same category of guys who just have, there isn't anybody that you go, I think that's Julian, I'm not sure, said nobody ever. Because you just have a very unique look, and it automatically makes death cool.
That's interesting. It's funny. As actors, you always see it from the other side. You tend to know your insecurities and the instability of that gift, because it is a gift. And I would say to counter, like, thank you, I accept that and I embrace it. But also the counter is that sometimes it's too much, and it's too much of a primary color, and it doesn't take a long narrative arc. It's the kind of thing that's handled in short, sharp bursts. And that's become a strength of mine, to be able to come in and give something bang to a show or a narrative or an episode. But I must admit that in my career, I always think, what would it be like to be on a 22 show arc where the character builds incrementally, slowly? There's not a lot of immediate expectation. I'm just throwing it out there.
I hear that.
I'm not crying the blues because I'm very fortunate in my career. I love the stuff that I've been able to do.
Right.
But there is this other side to it where, and I talk to other character actors too, where they always go, I know I look that way, but I wish I would be perceived in a slightly different manner.
Yeah. Totally. That's natural to think that.
Yeah.
So were you going into this, were you a fan of sci-fi or fantasy?
Not really. I was cast in those roles because I am, let's call it cool, but it can also be called outsider, weird, strange, dark, whatever. And so generally I would be cast as, somebody slightly on the margins.
And that's always interesting, by the way. Those actors in most projects, in a lot of projects, might not be number one in the call sheet, but they're the ones that make everything interesting.
Absolutely.
It's like, and those roles are always written usually incredibly well and in layered form.
The other benefit too, which I'm so grateful for, is that I keep working. I haven't lost my image or anything because I was never like I lose my hair, I go gray, I do age spots, etc. That's who I am. I've never had to look a particular prototype or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
That guy.
I've made this comment, and it's not meant to be a put down to myself or anybody else. This is the phrase. It sounds like a put down. It's not meant to be one. But you can't lose your looks if you never had them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's really what you're saying is a better way of saying it. It's basically saying who you are and what you embody on film and in TV is fluid based on the you-ness of you, not built on a very specific snapshot of time.
It's funny, the other day, Ruth was pointing out someone on TV, like a famous, really good looking actor, that she was like, oh, he's had a little work done. I was like, really? She's like, yeah, look there and there. I was like, oh, whoa. And I thought to myself, I'm so glad I'll never have to worry about that. Like my face is just going to go where it's going to go. I'm never going to do any kind of, I'll just use it.
You did that one eye tuck and you're good for 5 years.
The other funny thing for me now is that I never played a father. I guess Death is the closest to an uncle that I've ever been. He's like the boys' severe uncle, and I think of him in those terms to the boys. But casting directors would always go, "No, you can't be a father." And I go, "Yeah, sure, that's fine. I'll play the whatever."
I'll tell my son.
Yeah.
But now that I've got older, I can be a grandpa because grandfathers can be a little out there.
Right.
I'm thinking of Alan Arkin, Little Miss Sunshine, who brings the whole package to being a grandfather. He's not holding back. He's who he is, and he's going for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's in our culture and in our narratives, that's okay with grandparents.
Yeah.
Once removed from the kids, so it's okay. So
Rich is going to be a real Wilford Brimley.
As my friends in college used to say, they go, Rich, when you're old and toothless, you're going to look exactly the same. So I have that going for me.
You mentioned it earlier, your entrance, we talked about being one of the best ever. Let's just talk a little bit more about that. So Phil Segresha directed your introduction. He also directed your last episode, Death's Death, which is a spoiler alert for me and Rich. When you did that intro, was that all in the conception? Was he like, so here's what it's going to be, slow-mo, this song, or hadn't pieced that together yet?
I didn't have a clue. It was really early on the back lot set, and it was cold. There was a lot of people involved, lots of folk on the sidewalk and stuff. And I was new, and all I was worried about was not crashing the car. Like it came down to those kind of things, like going, oh, yeah, okay, I'll do this, I'll do that. But what was really nice was that as you're in, like I say, the nitty gritty of stuff, you pick it up real fast. You pick up the tone. And I started to relax. And part of it is the soundtrack. If you watch that scene without the soundtrack, it's not anywhere near as impactful.
No.
There's a story there too.
Yeah.
And I wish we knew the whole detail. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Is it one of those songs that's more than 100 years old, Rich?
It is. That's an old public domain song, I believe, but it's Ralph Stanley, I think it was the guy who recorded it as a bluegrass track. I don't remember who wrote it. But it was recorded by somebody who worked at Warner Brothers. That was like a demo.
Oh, right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It was a placeholder.
It was just floating around there. And they're like, oh my gosh, hey, Deborah, can we use your version of Death for this?
Wow.
It's Jen Titus is the woman's name, Jen Titus.
Yes.
And I have it on a playlist because I absolutely love it. I think it's a gorgeous rendition of an Americana song. It's just gorgeous.
I've heard it in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It's got a very
That's the original. That's the Ralph Stanley.
Yeah. But
and it's very different when you hear it. Like she does this haunting version.
Oh.
The original version, it sounds like a broken coal miner.
Yeah.
But she brought in this troop of like crazy
and reverb, like this huge kind of reverb, universal reverb or something. It's really cool.
Yeah.
You should make your wife play that whenever you like walk in the room.
That's right. Yes.
I'll tell you what, if you ever come to a party at my house, because I throw a lot of parties.
He will.
I'm going to drop the needle on that track when you walk in the door.
Rich will. He'll just sing it.
He's had to deal with me singing it every time he takes the stage at a convention. He knows.
The first time that I ever did a convention was in Toronto, and you introduced me, and you did that. And I didn't know what to do. I had no clue. It was my first introduction to the whole convention thing.
Yeah.
You know what was cool? I got to give me and Rob a little props for that because it was really cool. The band always tries to think of a good intro, especially for a new guy. They're like, hey, how do we make him feel like a badass? And I'm like, this won't make him feel like a badass. Maybe it'll make me look like an ass, but I'm going to sing this song. Yeah. And Rob goes, great. You sing that song. And when you hit the last note, we'll kick into Don't Fear the Reaper. And that was it. Remember that? That's how it was like, it was great. It was like still one of the all-time greatest.
And cowbell.
At the C-level convention circuit.
I get to do the cowbell.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, and then in season 7, episode 1, you meet the new boss. It's called Meet the New Boss. You have a nice face-off with Misha.
Yeah. I got to say that I rewatched it because I knew that we were going to be talking today.
Yeah.
And I watched it and most of my scenes are two-handers with one of the boys.
Right.
But this is the one where there's a lot of people. And I realized with Supernatural, the series, like, how complex the storytelling is. There's a scene there with, 5 primary characters?
Yeah.
It's pretty extraordinary. All the stuff, all the exposition, all the things that are going on. And going back to what we were saying earlier, hats off to the acting ensemble, is that everybody is playing the scene and there's no kind of, and we're dealing with heavyweights in that scene, but everybody is there and it goes from one crisis to another to, over here, over there. It's not like an insistence by one of the actors that, no, this scene's about me.
Right.
It's like, it's a very complicated scene.
Yeah. It's not just coverage where you're just listening and nothing else. It's like everyone's got something to say and do. Did you right away with Jensen and Jared, and the crew too, like that this is sort of a special set?
The second time I came in, the first time I just enjoyed it and I went for the ride. And then next season I came back and I did a show, and the AD, and I can't remember his name now, took me aside and he went, if you do another one, you'll probably do some conventions. And I distinctly remember, and I said, conventions, what's that? And I had no clue.
So funny.
That was when the whole convention thing was beginning to take off.
Yeah.
But Yeah, it was then that I knew. Then the third season that I was in, which would have been season 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we just saw.
Right.
Apparently you have 2 more that we have not seen, that we have not watched yet. So
Yeah, I know. It's remarkable, eh? I'm hardly in
all
it.
of us.
But I think that's true of all of us, isn't
yeah.
it? Really?
100%. You just so you know, when Rob was doing your intro, right before you came on, he was like, and he appeared in 5
And then we
episodes
stopped and we were
of
like,
Supernatural.
5?
I was like, Steve, you're fired. Obviously, he's in a lot more than 5.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, I'm not fired.
Yeah.
I actually hired you guys. I can fire you guys. And I said, Steve, this isn't the time for this argument. But anyway, the point is, you were only in 5. And what a blast radius, man. Like, you are as integral a part of the show, your character and your portrayal of that character as anybody. As Misha, as Shepard, as anybody.
And again, but it's good storytelling, right?
Yeah.
You set up the universe and you set up your archetypes and you refer to them a lot, like the shark in Jaws. You don't have to see the shark.
Exactly.
All the time.
Yes, good point.
Yeah.
And it is introed so well. Your first episode is so great that when we ever see you coming up after that, there's immediately an oh shit moment from the character and from the viewer.
And you can't be overused. You know, a lot of people go, oh, it's too bad you died. And why did that? I think it's very smart. There are many reasons, but one of them is to keep people on their toes and not to overuse a trump card.
Nobody's safe, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like Supernatural started doing what Game of Thrones ended up going
Kill
on
off
to do.
everybody.
The difference is you just didn't know.
Yeah.
Obviously, if Jared or Jensen died in an episode, pretty strong bet they're going to pop back up at some point. But Misha down, anybody's ball game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In this show, like everybody could come back. Like anything is possible.
They could come back
That's
too,
right.
sure.
Anything is possible. So you're in 5 episodes. Do you have a favorite?
It's got to be the first one because it was so significant.
Yeah.
It involved the 2 things. It was also in the outside world with the intro, and it was also inside and in that real specific scene with Dean and the pizza.
Yeah. Which
you know what's
so
crazy
great.
too? I know I sound like a super fan, but that's only because I'm a super fan. The intro, we've told Phil too, is probably the coolest thing he ever did on the show. It is collectively one of the coolest things the show ever did. You know who was great in that intro? The no-name, I mean, he's got a name, but we don't know his name. The dude that you bump into, he's great. Because he gives you the F you buddy look, and then he just drops to his knees.
It's superb. It's beautifully choreographed. Everything about it. And that guy, he's a surprise. He's not an asshole or a jerk. Like it's like a guy.
Yeah.
That's just pissed off.
It felt like real. It felt real. It felt like big city life.
And that scene with you and Jensen when he goes into that realm where he can see you. Again, it's one of those scenes where I did lose myself in it. I wasn't thinking first and foremost, I'm watching 2 of my friends act together.
Yeah. Another thing, detail, like you're saying, Rich, about the guy that drops to his knees in the intro. What about everybody else in the pizza parlor that's dead?
Yes.
Like the camera moves and you go, oh my God, they're surrounded by corpses.
Right.
And then outside there's the lightning and then occasionally you get somebody passing by and you go, oh, right. Those details are really well orchestrated.
Yeah. So cool.
So true. It's those detail things that this show thinks of or the director thinks of or at some point get thought of.
Yeah.
That are really great. However that scene is described, it's visualized beautifully.
Yeah. Anything else that you have coming up that you could talk about?
I'm quite excited about a show. I did a series based on a Stephen King novel called The Institute.
Stephen King called The Institute. I'm laughing already.
That sounds terrifying.
It's I would call it a dark thriller rather than the traditional, so it's not horror slasher thing.
Gotcha.
It's got kids in it, and it's got a government institute that exploits the special abilities of kids.
Oh, yes. I
So
saw a
it's-
preview or something for that.
Maybe. I think it's going to be really good. It would be MGM Plus.
Oh,
Okay.
great.
So
Okay.
ultimately Amazon, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's that. And I've just done an indie movie, which was a lot of fun, called Honey Bunch. And that's just been at the Berlin Film Festival. And I'm really happy because that was an unusual experience for me because it was 2 partners, husband and wife, directed and wrote. So I've never been directed by a couple before.
Right.
And the leads were an actual husband and wife
Oh my gosh.
actor team. And it was like really cool. It was about the dynamics of relationships and care, and whether caring for somebody is self-involved or whether it's about the other person. And it's a mystery thriller. It's really good. Jason Isaacs is in it. And
cool.
Kate Dickie from The Witch, who is the mum in The Witch, Scottish actress.
Oh, she's so... Julian, I got to tell you, you know that I've talked to you about The Witch before because I just love
it was about 10 minutes ago, even.
I just made my entire extended family watch it for Christmas. And there's a lot of people in my family no longer speaking to me because of The Witch. And they started... I have a dog here in L.A. She's light brown, and they start calling her Tan Phillip.
Yes, the goat.
Black Phillip.
Yeah.
I mean... Dude, that movie is so creepo. You have such a cool resume. You get to do the coolest stuff. I can't wait to see the two projects you just named. I guarantee you they're awesome and you're awesome in them.
And Jason Isaacs is great too. We're enjoying him in season 2 of White Lotus right now.
White Lotus, and he's done a lot of edgy, independent stuff. He did Death of Stalin too, which I thought was...
He's Malfoy's dad.
He's Malfoy's dad.
I guess that's his biggest known one.
Well, dude, you have to come back and talk to us some more. You have a couple more episodes on the show.
Great.
And we just got to get you back in.
We'll come in and we'll hone in on one of your episodes, maybe your last one, and we'll hone in on that, talk about it.
Great.
When do we see you at a convention again? When's our next
I
live
don't know.
sighting?
I'm not on the circuit at the moment. I don't know. Hopefully soon.
Thank you for taking the time and being here, buddy. We appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julian.
Take care, everybody.
This is Jared Padalecki stopping in to say hi and let you know that we've got to take a quick break.
Hey guys, it's Rob. You know what gets me is cell phone bills. What are those charges? They're bogus fees. You know, the almost late fee. You were thinking about it. Fee. That's how they make their money, and that's the way that business works. But I personally would rather... I don't feel like my money is sort of just like, fast track into the service that I'm using. And so that's why I decided to stop paying those overpriced cell phone bills and switch to Mint Mobile. What? Who are you, Robert? I know, right? So say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. This is the best part. You get to keep your phone number. Super easy. And all your existing contacts. So you don't do anything. You just be you, pay less money, switch to Mint Mobile. Ditch the overpriced wireless guy. Get 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for $15 a month. If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/supernatural. That's mintmobile.com/supernatural. Upfront payment for $45 for 3-month 5GB plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
There are many ways to entice a potential new customer with flashy branding and calculated marketing strategies. But at the end of the day, the success of a business comes down to the ability to close the sale. And for businesses like Thrive Cosmetics, Allbirds, or Skims, it's what goes on behind the scenes, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple that makes the difference. For them and for millions of businesses, that difference is made with Shopify. Businesses that want to grow, grow with Shopify. Because if your goal is growth, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And Shopify will make sure you're ready. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. And with Shop Pay, they boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. It's no wonder Shopify is home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/realm.
Thanks for listening. Now, back to the episode.
Wow.
What a guy.
Just
He's so smart too, and he says things in a way I'm like, that's how you say that. That's the feeling, Very smart guy.
he's so intelligent, and I thought you're pointing out that he summed up an element of the key to the success of Supernatural very eloquently in ways that we have not
Yeah, been able
said.
to
We have thought.
express.
We've danced around it, trying to figure out how to put our finger on it, but I thought he said it really well.
We're idiots.
We're dumb. We're not Julian Richings. You know what I mean?
We're no Julian Richings.
We're not even a Julian or a Richings. We're not. We're not even one part of that.
Not even a jewel.
Nope. I'm a Rich though,
We do have one rich.
and you're a bit of an Ing.
What a treat to have a Julian Richings spotlight episode.
You just don't get better. I mean, and I'm dead serious. I feel like the thing about Supernatural is, and I think our fan base, though biased, would agree, even if they weren't biased. If you'd airlifted some of the performances of Supernatural into, let's call it mainstream TV, ABC, CBS, NBC, across the board, there would have been Emmy nominations over the life of the show. For Jensen, for Jared,
100%.
Eric Kripke, for a lot of the writers, for
If what had happened?
if it had been on a higher profile network,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
Now the difference is it survived because it wasn't.
Correct.
All those years it was on the bubble.
Yep.
Being on the CW and the WB
Yes.
actually helped it survive
Yeah.
and helped it last 15 years. So there's a trade off. But had it been on mainstream television as it was considered back then, you're looking at some Emmy nominations across the board.
Mm-hmm.
It's very possible that Phil Segrisha would have been an Emmy nominated episode as a director.
100%. I mean, I think you'd have a lot of Emmys. I think the writers and
I said Kripke and Sarah Gamble and
Bob.
Ben Edlund, Bob Singer,
Ben
Phil
Edlund,
Segrisha.
Bob. Yeah. Best supporting actor, Rob Benedict. It just goes on. Like there's
We're trying
just
to be
so
serious
many-
here, Rob. You're going to turn it into a clown show full of jokes and revelry and
non-truths.
thrown pies. How dare you? It's just great. Great having him, man. He really does elevate the whole thing.
100%. So if you have a character, or an actor, or a topic you'd like to hear a spotlight episode on,
like clam bakes, who'll start?
world peace. If you have one that you'd like to hear a topic on, go to Patreon, join for free, and send us a note.
Yeah.
Let us know. Plus, if you're on Patreon, you'll get to see all the fun posts our paid members are getting, like the video version of this interview, which, because I signed off and signed back on and unfroze myself, you can see an unfrozen me talking to 3 other unfrozen people.
It's unfrozen fun from stem to stern.
But before we go, here's that code to get discounts on Magic Mind. It gets you up to 48% off your first subscription or 20% off one-time purchases. Use the code SUPERNATURAL20 at checkout. Just go to magicmind.com/supernatural.
You'll be glad you did. By the way, you should find this interesting, Rob. This episode of Supernatural Then and Now was hosted and executive produced by Richard Speight Jr. and Rob Benedict.
Produced by Stephen Hine, written by Stephen Hine and Ada Holscher.
And edited and associate produced by Trey Booty.
You mean, what's up, Booty Booty?
The very one. Music provided by Tim Wynn.
This episode was recorded with the help of Sonic Fuel Studios.
This podcast is from Story Mill Media.
Follow the podcast on Instagram and YouTube at SPN Then and Now.
Become a member of the podcast to get early access, chat rooms with other podcast fans, and video interviews at patreon.com/SPN Then and Now. Two things I want to say. Number one, why is it you who always have the code? I never have the code. I never get to give people a code. You always get to give the people a code.
I told them not to give you a code. I guess on Game of Thrones, too, I think they had a witch who brought somebody back from the dead.
Yeah, and you were Khaleesi at
And
a
I was
karaoke
Khaleesi
party.
at a karaoke party. Thank you. For a whole year. I'm getting a 2 from the sidelines.
No, that's a British for go fuck yourself from Steve Hine.
That's right. I wondered why his hand was turned around. Yeah, what a great spotlight. I'm stuck on topics. We haven't done very many topics.
No, that's a lie. So but I think it may be future-proofing this.
Right.
announcement. You know what I mean?
But it's like, what would our
someday we
topics
will.
be? Like, Armageddon, go.
Rob's love
You know
life.
what I mean? Ba-dum-bum-ba-dum-bum.
Goodbye.
Story Mill Media.
Welcome to the ultimate social deduction game, Blood.
on the clock tower.
The evil team must stalk the streets at night, hunting down members of the good team one by one. Meanwhile, the good team must outmaneuver the evil team using their unique abilities.
I'd like to kick things off by telling you all that I'm possibly the demon.
Our players can mislead and manipulate others with absolute freedom.
I didn't like hearing my name in the same sentence as demon. That was very upsetting for me. Emily and I will be your storytellers, guiding you through every labyrinthian twist and turn.
How are there so many evil players in this game? What's happening?
With guests from No Rolls Barred, the Pandemonium Institute, and Oxventure, you won't be able to stop listening. Go to realmspod.com/clocktower to find out more.
The Warning Woods has haunting horror stories that are sure to linger with you long after listening. I'm Miles Tritle, writer and narrator of The Warning Woods. Each week, I write an original scary story and share it with you on The Warning Woods. I've written 2 novels and nearly 200 short stories spanning the horror genre. If you're into scary stories, you need to check out The Warning Woods. Listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for The Warning Woods and click play at your own risk.